G'day guys, welcome to Aussie Azure Tech. This is your host Kumara and I'm a Microsoft certified professional having 5 years of experience specializing in Azure Cloud and Azure DevOps and hoping that you pick up a thing or two here. If not, you can always stay for the fails and let's get started. Today's episode is about Bicep and Bicep deployments in Azure. What do you mean by Bicep? So the biggest problem with JSON-based ARM templates was that it's written in JSON. So any programmer worth his salt will tell you that JSON is not a really good programming language. It lets you just define custom objects with varying degrees of depth. So to solve that problem, what Microsoft decided to do was create Bicep and infrastructure as a code designated language for Azure. If you previously had experience with Terraform, it is exactly like Terraform, but only having Azure providers. So today what we'll be doing is we're going to learn by doing. So the first part of this is we're going to create a Bicep deployment to create a system managed identity. And after that, it is going to be a bit more complex where we deploy an enterprise application or an app registration in Entra ID using Bicep. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting the target scope for this Bicep file to be the subscription, as this is going to be a deployment across the subscription. And the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be providing our resource group name and resource group location as parameters for this file. And after that is we're just going to be copying a new resource block, and this is available in the Microsoft documentation. And now it's time to use modules in Bicep. So let's create our first module. The way we added parameters to an Bicep file, we can also do that for modules. You can see that here we just have the metadata that is described by using the @description symbol. Let me just go over the rest of the parameters real quick. So we're providing a publisher email for this instance of Azure API management, followed by we're just providing another parameter for the resource tags. And the last one, we're allowing the different sort of allowed API management services that are available, and we are setting up a default one of developer. Finally, the most important one is the location of the resource, which it inherits from the resource group. So the last step in this is we provide the resource block, provide the name, the location, and the SKU that we defined in the parameters earlier. And last but not least, we just pop some tags in so that it becomes easier for us to identify objects. So let me just repeat these steps for another module, the user defined system managed identity. Now that we have all of our modules, let's go to the main.bicep file, import all of our modules, and create a resource group so that we can have all of them sit under the same resource group. And after that, we're going to be generating the parameters.json file from the Bicep file. And now we create a new deployment using the az deployment create command, so that now we can create this into the Azure portal. Let's just go to the Azure portal to verify all of our deployments, and we can see that all of the resources exist there. So we are successful with our Bicep deployment. We're going to be deploying application registrations in Entra ID using Bicep deployment scripts. There are a couple of steps that we need to actually do that sort of deployment. One, it is we have to create a user managed identity. We'll use the one that we created last time. There are a couple of other caveats that we need with the managed identity. One, to make things easier, is that we're going to be providing the managed identity with the contributor role across our subscription. And you will see that once we provide this contributor role, we can actually start using the deployment scripts of Bicep files. Let me give you some background on how deployment scripts work in Bicep. So when we have a deployment script resource in Bicep, what happens is that if you have any managed identity associated with it, Azure is going to use that managed identity and try to create a couple of resources in Azure. It's going to first create a storage account as well as a container instance for running this script. Apart from that, there is also a custom role that has to be granted to our managed identity. Let's go create that role right now, and for more information about this custom role, please check out the Microsoft documentation. Now the last thing that is left for us is that we're going to be providing the managed identity access to create enterprise applications in Entra ID. Now that we met all of the prerequisites in using the deployment scripts, let's go and get started on the actual Bicep script. As usual, let's provide the parameters that are used for this script. The next thing that goes in is the script element of the Bicep file. And we can see here that we've actually hard-coded our user managed identity as the parameter. And now let's just paste in the script that is going to be creating the enterprise application in Entra ID. I'll just go over briefly what the script does. First, it uses AZ accounts to get an access token for graph.microsoft.com. And after we get the token, it is just a simple REST API call to create the application in Entra ID. Let's run the Bicep deployment right now and we'll test it out on our local machine. As you can see that it has succeeded. And that's all, folks. And today you've learned how to create enterprise application using Bicep. Do hit the like and subscribe, guys. That always helps. Thank you very much.